Oh, I put a clip of Morgan Freeman, a grown man, and he's like, "Oh, Barack Obama is not black. He had a white mother." See, these are collusions the celebrities have with the interbranch and the intelligence tied to them still criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, collusion slash S, but making fake examples of themselves, pretending they have free speech. Or how do you know if I'm trying to be free speech or not? That's not free speech. They're blocking. They attach me to fake conversations with the news about the World Trade Center attack. They put other people who are also in the World Trade Center attack and faked conversations about that and changed conversations about that too. Interstates, Connecticut's roles interstates with the FBI with that and other agencies, foreign and domestic. These are also people roles replacing what our founders communicated for us to communicate about how the breaching method reassigned black people's rights of eyes, communications by nature itself, and by our founders. They still have our founders' communications replaced, even though they declassified that and how and why. Nobody had free speech. Everyone had to pretend other to an extent or be sensed by the breaching method, including if everyone was a majority of people, including if everyone was or is a whole country together. Any grouping of countries to counter with this cause and keep while there's still roles having blamed what it causes and keeps on other things others themselves. Because nature was is demonstrating. It's a breaching method. A human fact should be nature breaching method is one of the things that all those crazy laws and all the crazy collusions with the overt criminal enterprise, private ones, hyper additional with that terrorists that were in place before America's founders were born, northern colonies and southern colonies. Our founders had to use James Madison's plan, and they had to counter extort the rest of the founders and the rest of the presidents, including George Washington. We're supposed to be allow people, even you guys don't even allow other people to be honest about American history because you're forcing a nature debate where you want us to pretend just because someone's an expert. The names of the people, the sciences are and have been used remotely, self-valuing themselves used remotely too. You know, sequence shifting. In other words, changing it, using our founders' words, leaving out how they declassified about how why they did not have free speech, leaving out and but forcing blame the other things, ourselves, and our schools, collusions with the overt criminal enterprise, private ones involved with that. Things that our founders communicated for us to blame in the breaching method, like what assigned roles with crazy witch trials, slavery laws, crazy breaching method of Native Americans against Native Americans, all differences rackets. This is a difference racket. Nature communication about black people's rights of eyes. It simultaneously showing us we have the same color eyes, different color eyes at the same time. Simultaneously, it's showing us as fish have eyes similar to ours, distinct from ours, but non-distinct from them, simultaneous with ours, but further that which is not us nor them. A further distinct identity of simultaneous nature is generating species bodies of individual bodies with all group differences and generation and demonstration of it's generating more. So we have this observed since we were kids. We have replacements of it. We have roles with the breaching method that has sides only allowed to be heard. See, they have identity theft, fraud, slanders against us all, where they have black people's rights of eyes replaced. We're supposed to have a nature debate with campuses and the exceptions, including in other words, this is broken grammar school logic. The only people allowed to be heard speaking. They have a mature, man, Morgan Freeman, a celebrity, you know, in collusion with identity rackets against himself and against everyone else with playing games with the black and white, leaving out what nature communicates there. This is inseparable from any proper subject treatment of American history, let alone with one pretending passions and emotions, or to be legitimately calmness. All these are the only celebrities, the only ones allowed to sit back and go, well, this is what I think. And what they think is collusion. It's not by accident. That's why Connecticut's Channel 3 News attached me to fake conversations with themselves and others and about the World Trade Center attack. And as juxtaposed natures of mixed natures of organized crimes and collusions with them at the same time. These are also people involved with seating the juries and with the Diddy trial. People involved with all sides of criminal and civil cases. And campuses involved with John Puppy Combs and Usher and Ludacris. Ludacris was staring at me, and then people at Trinity College. Then he kept staring over at people involved with 3 spots at the end of the Berlin Turnpike, planting evidences with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and the family members of judges, putting fake ties, fake evidences, fake ties, fake natures of ties, roles with all kinds of natures of investigators, and all sides of criminal and civil cases. The lawyers, the news at the same time, and the courts putting the same sequence shifts, identity theft, fraud, slanders. They're refusing to identify themselves legitimately. More forced leaders of kids, years apart, and ones that were roles with the first one years ago, as ones involved with the one I caught before they were caught off campus anyway. And they forced that by changing and faking digital evidences. And Facebook has collusions with that. All natures of investigations. Investigators used remotely criminally foreign influence / hyper-criminally foreign influence. We are shown by nature itself, not even a lawyer. Nature shows itself. Distinctly, the southern colonies and northern colonies had rules with slavery right through the Civil War. No matter who was going to win, slavery was going to end. By the way, but you guys have what caused the Civil War is James Madison's plan replaced. You don't even have us allowed to appreciate what our founders declassified. You have self-valued roles, the uses of their words, pretending that's not real and not knowing about it as the quote experts, as styles and natures of want needs and nature debate, broken grammar school logic. In other words, get them on paper, one name and sequence. Get me off the fake conversations with WFSB. A bunch of people recorded, confessed. A whole bunch of people tied to Gayle King too, and her family and intimate ties, and roles with Central Connecticut State University and the sides of it in New Britain, Connecticut, as ones involved with New Britain Superior Court, Harper Courts before the World Trade Center at West Hartford location, and New Britain location, and with the newspapers involved, and their family members, and the spots with the Connecticut television and next to them and their sources, WTNH sources. WTNH is also next to the FBI in New Haven. WTNH also increasingly has collusion /S with Wethersfield Police and their sources at corners of streets from the old founding locations in Old Wethersfield, Connecticut. You guys have self-valued roles with other being communicated for our founders, what they communicated about why and how. There's a witch trials place next to Webb House, now renamed the Webb Stevens Museum, and they still have other communicated for it than about it and the people associated with, like George Washington and the French John. Other communicated for themselves and for our founders, and they communicated to have communicated for themselves. George Washington came there with James Madison's plan to counter extort. And they had no means but to do it to an extent. That's why they had to leave slavery entrenched. You guys have our founders framed for slavery exactly the way the breaching method wants and needs. Why you have self-valued roles with it. But this is, in other words, the nature of the debate, you guys have principles all skewed and messed up. You have to understand James Madison's plan, where he was a founder before he was a president. You have to understand that his plan, how they counter-extorted the rest of the founders and the rest of the presidents too. In other words, with the founders behind him, plural, we were directed to understand our founders, plural, as James Madison, singular, and his plan. And then they went and got George Washington counter-extorted and agreeing to counter-extort the rest of the founders at key locations inside more than 13 states that were entrenched. Not just with witch trial, slavery, psycho laws to keep roles with it is an extent of collusion /S, everyone against everyone and else, and was measuring to maintain that self-value to an extent. Otherwise, that body was censored. Clearly, it was a majority of people. Clearly, it was everyone, and that was adapted to easily by the breaching method that had been entrenched since before modern religious messengers were born. The campus Marseilles is functional for the republic for which we stand. And pantheism also is functional for it too. But it is per a method to see through isms, including its own, to be and to stay being led by that which is hyper invisible, but still discernible distinctly from how it is invisible, but still discernible. It is an identity, a volume this way that we could discern its body as what we are appreciating. For example, where and how we are appreciating, why and how we need to appreciate a present participle or a past participle or a predicate as names hyperadditional for a verb, a gerund, an infinitive. See, these are names for a verb. And they are not just inflections of a verb. They are showing us the verb's complete identity to an extent, which comes with its complete identity's relationship to itself and the value of that too. Simultaneously, it comes with how it is grouped one way, how it is an individual identity of volume. Like just like your cells, each cell of your body, you could name it a cell, but it's also grouped identities of value progression at the same time. Like the cell nucleus, cell body, cell wall / S, an appreciation of gases, an appreciation of water, and coming through. Hyper additionally, with the identity of volume science, that identity really is about. How we have black people's white devices, it comes with revelations, comes with how nature communicates. About why, not just about we have the same color eyes, different color eyes. At the same time, nature itself is communicating to us about difference, about about some similarity at the same time. It is showing us its distinct identity of simultaneous nature, inseparable from all others individually grouped together, even if they are made up. It is distinctly the order of the finite. It is distinctly the order of what is active and are grouped. It is distinctly the order of what is simultaneous. Simultaneously, the 3 parts of time we know are bound, like the value of seasons that aren't even here yet, even if they never get here again. The value of what is here active now, grouped to an extent that we know, is true always. And as its system, true always. Since some ancient times and right through founding, Americans have had syntax and means to describe how a breaching method has been involved with the formal syntax and the differences of the guilt with them. Excuse me. Excuse me. Or the campuses, or the 3 branches of government of the intelligence tied to them, with a whole bunch of countries at once, shared here and there since before our founders were born. The same countries with nuclear weapons pointed at each other. Because just like a breaching method stayed entrenched right through America's founding, and still, the breaching method measures and maintains self-value roles with its readings of American history and of the sciences. Criminally foreign influence, tactic, delusions, wrought, and pretending others simultaneously, which simultaneously screens the breaching method for other motivations, natures, involvements, and interests that everyone, even they themselves, don't realize. This breaching method was a perfected use / uses when the plural part uses through everyone else. But the breaching method is the effective use of names A through Z, operating countries' names A through Z, as locations, areas, and states, only capable of blaming other things, others ourselves, for things that the breaching method caused and keeps, and or only capable of sensing, with all exceptions, sensing for the breaching method. See, they want and need to pretend they're having natures of debate, and that let's go settle in a court. The courts have been planting in collusions with the news and the crime scenes, including body dumping spots, forced child abusers, leaders of the kids. These are some black, white, female judges involved with some black KKK theme, Latino theme, Italian theme, Russian theme, Ukrainian theme. They're doctors, a whole bunch of people, all this at Harvard Hospital, Italian themed inter and intracultural identity theft, fraud, slanders, while tactically delusions wrought. We're going to address the delusions too, all kinds of criminally foreign influence, interbranch families involved with the mental health at triages, and involved with the corrections offices of Connecticut and the judicial branch offices. Also involved with campuses with Sean Puffy Combs and people involved with Usher and other, and Snoop Dogg, and in ways they don't even want. No one wants collusions with this. These are people, all natures of investigators use remotely criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw to blame other things, others, and or themselves on things that the breaching method caused and keeps. Like their styles A through Z of pretended and legitimate and honest opinions regarding what they think about black or white. Because if it wasn't, they're tactically delusions wrought because of the child abuse method. It's multi-front against elderly homes. Have you seen elderly homes? Not honesty spoke for the sciences. These are people next to campuses manifest as tools, as a certain type of victim / hyper victim, where there are qualities, aspects, and there's nature associated with all locations / S. Everywhere the human species body has a body. For example, why and how? Suburbs that were designed, northern colonies and southern colonies, for the torture, extortion, and factory nature slavery, therefore physical slavery of every single person. And this had nature demonstrating it. A breaching method is hurting every single person, non-distinctly, not just sickly distinctly. But rather than counter that, so that's why we have to understand how and why. It hurt everyone sickly, non-distinctly. To measure and maintain everyone and to propagate rules, needs, and natures of people going to speak for integrity, people going to speak for free speech. As collusion, sensing for the breaching method, in defenses of that. No one has free speech yet. You guys aren't supposed to jump up into our conversation and change and fake what we say on the internet when we know they have wire crime acts and methods. Wethersfield police put me in fake conversation with them at the police station when I was a kid, and now as an adult. They have retired police chiefs and mayors from Wethersfield and their family members in different conjunctions to them involved with untimely deaths, even if they were made up any or all of them. Intercities that were involved at the same time with murders and people involved with the World Trade Center attack and relative confessions. Investigators are recorded how being and having been used remotely, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw every day since everyone was born. The difference of their guilt, which is time collusions with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and terrorists, originally still a group tactical terror, then they need to pretend. In other words, they're not trying to legitimately counter criminal foreign influences, charging Diddy with a RICO. They have the former directors, plural, of the FBI, like a Robert Luskin and his co-defendants and their family members involved at Trinity College. Also with Diddy and the people involved, and with people with the state of Connecticut judicial branch office and corrections offices, as people involved also at Hartford Hospital's campus, as the ones involved with UConn's conjunctions to Hartford Hospital, with the intelligence community. They have roles with psychiatry, only concentrated corruption, organized crimes, but also tactically delusions raw, and the family members of judges and prosecutors involved with those names. With wire crimes on my street, with police forms, multiple police departments involved with them from here, and their educators, roles of predicate acts with facts into databases recorded, all kinds of corruption with Washington, D.C. and the World Trade Center, all kinds of natures of organized crimes, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, raw styles, needs, and natures there, involved also with conjunctions to the state judicial branch offices and conjunctions to that, like all along Route 3 and conjunctions to it. Which and in other words, same ones on off the state corrections offices and grouped wire crime acts and methods with the branches of government individually distinct from how they are grouped. They switch names too and have roles with people switching names so they can keep the wrong descriptions as shock and awe, where they're letting people just put fake transcripts into databases, including interbranch. A bunch of people in the Britain Superior Court and Hartford courts before the World Trade Center attack. They have collusions with all sides of criminal and civil cases and with the FBI and former director of the FBI, also with all sides of criminal and civil cases, depositions and their own. Also, his co-defendants and their neighbors of their families have collusions with the ones increasingly involved with predicate acts against me on and off campuses timed, and with the news, identity theft, fraud, slanders. And I was in the Ninth Circuit Court next to the World Trade Center towers. Increasingly, foreign and domestic military had collusions with that and with the news, and with all sides of criminal and civil cases involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders. At the same time, to prevent an outcome, they're putting fake transcripts and evidences on a mass scale into all natures of courts. In other words, I can't get Judge Napolitano to hear me. I've been asking for a response in paper. They have a whole bunch of people with Hartford Hospital and New Britain Superior Court involved with themselves personally and professionally, like a Leahy family, fake conversations with me, whole fake transcripts, and with other doctors, like a Dr. Shamsi Ali. They're like forging doctors' names and just putting whole fake transcripts out about conversations and organized crime acts and methods that their people have roles with. They're trying to frame other people for organized crimes. Oh, the police have a right to be they're not legitimate with the police, with the ones with the name Kalal and tomorrow next to the corrections offices of Wethersfield, Hartford, and next to the judicial branch offices. Like near it is Wethersfield Pizza House. They're involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, putting fake motivations, and with the sexual circles. In other words, and make it look like other people tied to that. It make conversations and confessions to make people, that's why they're the same ones with the news stealing my identity, and with the judicial branch offices with Enzo Fienza. And there's a Sal Saviello that lives across the street from Enzo Fienza. Recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with state police, with Eric Jensen, interstates, and people in my area involved with federal evidences crimes with them. And all from the founding locations in Old Wethersfield, Connecticut, and the spots next to it, all along there, all from Main Street where it turns into Wells Road, Route 175, all right through Wethersfield, through Newington, to Central Connecticut State University, all sides of it. People from Wethersfield were influenced to act time when I was going to be there, put fake things, as ones involved with the Washington, D.C., in the World Trade Center since I was a kid, involved, and then in the World Trade Center attack roles. And then since, don't forget, Channel 3 News attached me to fake conversations about the World Trade Center attack. These are some black KKK, Confederate flag team, Latino team. Memphis police put me in fake conversation with them at the police station. I had with any cop at the Wethersfield police station. When I went down there to get a police report, I had someone else get it for me. And that was my Saudi friend. Increasingly tied to people involved with predicate acts with Wethersfield police and their educators with identity theft, fraud, slanders, fake ties, fake narratives. Oh, but you guys were, no, you guys were in the same summer school class. I never saw Heather Hanson on campus in my life. The only time I saw her on a campus, she recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, was make the fake exception, and so they could pretend that I knew her before that, and they couldn't have and so they could not be honest about what was recorded there. And her friend too, with that at Trinity College, is involved with the Joshua Stryker, and a whole bunch of people tied to Ray Kalal and his educators. I don't know Matt Olson and Eric Olson. Also, Eric Jensen and others recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed they're involved with state police, and people involved with Mike Roberts and Mike Pandolf, and people with New Britain involved with the courts and prosecutors intercities, and my educators behind my back putting fake things in transcripts, fake ties, fake natures of ties to me, fake conversations with me themselves too. 2 speech class teachers I had. Collusions with names involved with the World Trade Center attack, Washington, D.C., and New York, Manhattan. Two times I took a cooking class. People that put people in the class too. Those people involved with educating people, putting predicate acts in the databases. They're educators. They'll tell you this too. They're putting everyone to fake ties, fake natures of ties to everyone. And I learned all this because I was listening, watching them pretend passions or emotions on Facebook. In other words. And I did that distinction. Maybe, but we're the ones that have the right to lie. No. You guys use the right to lie where you don't have the right to lie. has collusions with all kinds of evidences, racketeering, and criminal foreign influences. You have criminal enterprises as actually bound, and have terrorists as actually bound, and private criminal enterprises originally and still as actually bound, specifically in ways to keep them incapable of countering things like criminal enterprises, criminal insidiousness, and terrorism properly, while as collusion /yes and pretending not to realize. Sandy Hook campuses has a number of names involved with them, and these names on my street and area and the intelligence tied to them from Wethersfield, increasingly with the state capitol and next to it, involved also with Sandy Hook campuses with sexual and medical offenders of kids, overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and people with the ad placements with the networks. And these are people with the judicial branch offices, corrections offices, and Facebook involved with them. To a guy with a red pickup truck, I don't know his name yet. And there are people with the name O'Neill involved with the campuses in West Hartford, and with the intelligence in Wethersfield involved with Joshua Schumacher and others with the Facebook pages of the principal sex offender and medical offender, and involved with other natures of organized crimes and roles with that, including with the security of the campuses and medical, like a Leahy family, all kinds of, with their kids involved too, as one's personally and professionally involved with judges and prosecutors and victims advocates too, involved with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, victims advocates used to keep people's mouths shut, and collusions with them stacking fake things in databases. Fear God, like in New Britain Superior Court. Get them on paper, one name and sequence. They even have female judges involved with this detective Samuda and the former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, involved with deans and their kids, involved with overt criminal enterprise, private ones, proven child abusers, leaders of kids. Names next to campuses, collusions, next to parks, rolls with it. Joseph Dennis, John Dennis, they'll tell you they used to live next to a former Mayor Gold. He's involved with them planting sequence ships, fake ties, fake natures of ties to me. And as their educators involved too, with news, predicate acts, fake, these are not legitimate roles with intelligence with West Hartford names and with the Britain names tied to these ones with the name Dennis, Joseph Dennis. And their roles with the courts, changing and faking digital evidence, is also with Officer Poison with some sexual and medical offenders of kids. You need to get on paper with the interbranch women judges with some black KKK, Confederate flag team, Latino team, time, etc. As one, get in other words, get them on paper, one name and sequence. Let's go. Let's get them on paper.